Hashtag rise and grind. Here I am in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm with my buddy Lance. And we had decided that night we were going to go out. We were going to go out to this party. We were going to chase some girls. We were going to do that whole thing. And so we're driving around Loop 101. And as we're driving around Loop 101 in Scottsdale, Arizona, my boy Lance, he's driving a little faster than he should be driving. And ultimately we get pulled over. Police officer walks up to the side of the car and he starts to talk to Lance. And when he gets done talking to Lance, he looks over at me. And he says, "Sir, I need you to give me your license." And I said, "Well, why do I need to give you my license? I'm just sitting here in the passenger seat. Homeboy was the one speeding. What's this got to do with me?" Well, needless to say, he insisted. And as I handed him my license, I was concerned. I knew that my past, there were things in my past that I hadn't taken care of. And so he ran my license and found out I did indeed have a warrant out of Coconino County up in Flagstaff, Arizona. I had a warrant for my arrest for some bad checks. And so they arrested me and they took me to a jail called Durango. And now when they took me to this jail, which Durango is, if you know anything about Sheriff Joe Arpaio, it's a crazy place out there in Arizona. So they took me to this jail called Durango, and when they brought me in, I was immediately forced to strip down, to bend over, to allow them to do things to me that I'm positive you wouldn't want done to you, to say the least. And after they did that, they stripped away all of my clothes and all of my belongings. They put me in pink underwear and a pink jumpsuit. That's what they do out in Arizona so that the inmates don't steal the clothes. So they put me in pink underwear. They put me in a pink jumpsuit. They stuck me in a holding cell, which I stayed in the holding cell for 2 days. It was awful. It was truly awful. Then from there, I was moved to DBlock, which is basically this big open like courtyard, right? And everybody's got their own individual cells. And when I was moved into there, I was now in there with other people that some were murderers, some were there like me because of a bad check. And we ultimately were all in one room. And when I first went in, the inmates made it very, very clear. They told me that I had to identify. I had to choose black, brown, white. I had to make a decision. I was forced to choose who I was going to identify with. Now, while I was in there, I chose black. I chose black because it felt safest inside. There was a lot of other black people, some big ones, some strong looking ones. And so it really felt like the safe choice in jail. I'm not sure I would make that same choice on the outside. So I spent 17 days in hell. That's the only way to describe it. 2 hours outside a week is what we were allowed. And there was the sounds of men being beaten throughout the day and throughout the night. There was no darkness ever because they don't turn off the lights in a jail. Makes sense, right? You had to fall asleep with the lights on. You never really knew what time it was, unless you went and found a clock, because it was always the same lighting, no sunshine that came in through the windows. Courtyard, men, couple hours outside, no darkness. I was surrounded by men who had acted out their internal thoughts, the perceptions in their mind. I was surrounded by men who had missed the opportunity to slow down, to take a deep breath, and to make a good decision. They'd missed that opportunity and instead made poor decisions that ultimately landed them in a jail cell. I spent 17 days in there, 17 days of prayer, 17 days of fear, 17 days where my mind raced. And in that 17 days where I was forced to pause, where I was forced to slow down, in those 17 days I had a breakthrough. You see, in those 17 days, I learned that we are all one race. Children of God. The God of the universe. The God who made everything. Made us each to be the absolute best versions of ourselves that we could possibly be. And I learned that if we could just slow down and put ourselves in each other's shoes for just a minute with love and sincerity, that our thoughts ultimately would change, and those thoughts that are now changed would ultimately become actions, and ultimately our world would change. You see, out here in Freedom Land, if you want to call it, out here there is, like, you don't have to choose. You see, when I was in jail, I had to choose black, brown, white. But I'm here to tell you, out here, you don't have to choose. Now, I know that there is a lot of pressure. I know that there is a lot of pressure there's a lot of pressure for you to pick a side right now. You have to choose whether you're a mask wearer or not a mask wearer. You have to choose whether you're a Black Lives Matter or an All Lives Matter. You have to choose whether you believe or don't believe, whether you're a sheep or a lion, as they say. There's all this pressure for you to pick a side. Are you white? Are you brown? Are you black? Identify yourself. Pick a team. And I'm here to tell you, out here, you don't have to choose. Don't fall in to those pressures. Do not allow the world to strip you naked of all your clothes and force you to bend over so that you can be defiled. Do not allow the world to do that. Instead, I want you to choose the only universal equalizer that exists on the planet. I want you to choose love. That's it. I want you to choose love.
Hashtag rise and grind. Hashtag rise and grind.